Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
And Sarah Collins in the house.
Whoop whoop! Hello, Mr. Bill Dippel.
I get some Sarah Collins in my day. I'm always happy. Always happy.
Same.
I mean,
it feels good when we get to show up to the podcast, even though it pays us $0.
I know. We get nothing for this. Hey, anyone interested in any sort of advertising? Chip us $5.
Yeah, I was just texting Bill. I said, my husband says we're making too much content to be doing it for free. So somebody needs to pay us. If you like this, pass this on to your friends with money because we need
someone pay us. Someone from a just pay our software bill. That's all I want. Pass that. We're good.
That's right.
So.
It's not that way. It's not costing us money to make.
Right. Well, that would be great. Although, honestly, I enjoy it so much, it's okay that it costs me some money.
But
plus, you and I have talked about, we've had a couple clients reach out to us because of this.
Absolutely. So. It's just one of those things where my husband is very business-minded and I am very people-minded. So I'm like, the podcast is so successful. Like, listen to how many people listen to it and all these conversations we have. And he's like, how much money do you make? And I'm like, about that. I'm like, that's not really the goal of the podcast. And he's like, isn't it for your business? I'm like, okay.
I think it is, right? I think it's... So
we'll work it out in post.
We'll get there. We'll figure it out. Someone will come in. So, but, the question for you today, Sarah, the one I want to throw at you and see what do you think? What is the most random fact that you know?
That Justin Timberlake's birthday is January 31st, and his favorite color is baby blue. Or it was when he was like 18.
What? A JT fan?
I was a humongous NSYNC and particularly Justin Timberlake fan for most of my preteen, teen, young adult life. To the fact that my room was one of those covered in NSYNC posters.
Yes.
I had a VHS called Inside NSYNC that I watched every day after school for like a year.
Me too.
And then as I got older, I was so into Justin Timberlake. One time when I was in grad school, poor, just dirt poor, living on like $1,000 a month for everything, right? Getting this small stipend. Justin Timberlake is on a tour with Jay-Z. It was this like suit and tie tour. And the closest to Nebraska was Chicago. So I bought one VIP ticket and a bus ticket. And I took a bus to Chicago to sit in the VIP section by myself. Yes, I did.
And
it was great. I was in the fourth row. I made friends with these two guys in the first row, and they were going to let me stand there for the show because it was like pre-show. And the security guard was like, ma'am, you need to go back to your seat. I was like, but these nice gentlemen would like me to stand with them. And he was like, I don't think so, sweetheart. Get back to your seat. And luckily for me, there was this nice family, this very obviously privileged family. They had these like smaller children with them in the fourth row. And they became my friends, and they like took me in as part of their family since I was just some weird like 26-year-old girl in the fourth row of Justin Timberlake by herself.
Wow.
But yeah, so big fan.
Congratulations.
And I recently made friends with a stranger at the grocery store. This is like the most woo thing I've ever done.
Oh no.
This girl has this NSYNC hat on, and I'm like, hey, cool hat. She's like, oh my God. Turns out she's a way bigger Justin Timberlake and NSYNC fan than I am. And we exchanged numbers, and we actually went out to lunch last week.
Wow. Very cool.
So there you go.
Very cool.
Okay, how about you?
So I actually thought about this one for a second beforehand. I didn't just throw it out there and then go, oh my gosh. And it's slightly relevant actually in an interesting way. That should give it away. So I was watching Jeopardy a while back, and this was years ago. I don't tend to watch it anymore, and I used to watch it fairly often. And they had a factoid on, and it just stuck with me. And I thought, that's fascinating.
So I'm going to remember it.
And the question was, can you, the first president born in a hospital?
Listen.
No, no.
I don't know. You're going to have to tell us, otherwise
tough.
we're going to have dead air.
I kind of gave you a lead in saying it's a little relevant at the moment. It was Jimmy Carter.
Oh, well, look at that.
Now, this was years ago on Jeopardy. I'm sure one of our listeners is probably going to write and go, actually, that's not true. Or I misremembered it, but I'm pretty positive, Jeopardy hit it probably on the head. I'm sure their fact checkers are pretty good.
It seems really fitting that your random fact is like, I don't want to say current event, but, something like with substance, some actual fact, and mine was just a random pop culture tidbit that seems really on brand for us.
I wouldn't. Digital Underground came on the other day with Underwater Rhymes, and I sang every word in the car.
You mean Digital Get Down?
No, Digital Underground.
What's that?
It's a band. Oh, my.
Oh, I thought we were talking NSYNC. I was like, the NSYNC song is Digital Get Down.
No.
Digital Get Down.
No.
Just you and me. That song is low-key dirty. Didn't know it, back when it rolled out with dial-up internet, which if you listen to that song, there is dial-up internet sound. So any young folk out there, if you're like, what did dial-up internet sound like? Go to Digital Get Down by NSYNC. You get yourself some dial-up internet sounds.
I love it.
Wow.
So good. Yeah.
I hate to put our guest on the spot, but I feel like, Jennifer, you probably have a random fact that you know. Do you have one at top of your mind?
We got to ask.
So hoping you weren't going to ask me, because I have input envy, and I don't retain these random facts. But my own random music related fact is that I have seen Jackson Browne in concert 3 times at Red Rocks, which is kind of different. So, but that definitely dates me. Jackson Browne, classic rock, definitely not the NSYNC crowd. So
I was like, I don't want to sound rude, but I don't know who that is.
Oh wow.
Can we sing a song? What is the song?
Just a little
bit.
Oh, yes. Okay. I know this.
Right?
Thank you. I just really wanted everyone here to sing, so I was the only one.
Actually, he's got a pretty big repertoire of music. I saw him at Long Beach Arena decades ago, and fantastic show. Wonderful show. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, I'm just so happy to welcome our guest today. We have Jennifer Doyle Vancil of Communicating Strengths with us. She's a coach, she's a facilitator, and soon to be author. So I'm so excited to get to know her. Jennifer, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. How did you sort of get to be this business owner and strengths coach that you are today? And also give us your top 10.
Okay. All right. Top 10. I lead with communication. So you will definitely hear that today. Connectedness, which means everything has meaning and purpose for me. Maximizer, and may take everything from good to great. I have Woo and Relator. So I love to meet everyone. And then I want to stay in touch. So that is a super fun challenge. Positivity. And then I've got belief, individualization, strategic, and ideation.
So good. And that Woo Relator means you remember every little detail about meeting those people. I found out in our pre-show. So yes, Go on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did. I remember the details of how I met both Bill and Sarah. But I guess context matters for some of you. I was in higher ed for many years, 24 years full time in higher education. I was at the University of Alaska and Colorado State University. I'm a relator, so I stay in jobs for super long time. So like 2 universities for 14 years. And then I started my business on the side, and now I'm full-time doing coaching and consulting. So of course, always a story there, but that's a little bit of context about me.
I love how you said some of you care about context. And if we look at Jennifer's full 34, we know it's not her, because context is 32 for her. Thank you.
And 34 for me, Jennifer. So when you told me the story of how you and I met early on, I of course is sitting there, and I barely remember, meeting Sarah 4 days ago on a podcast. So thank you for helping me out.
Curious, but we were at a conference, a Gallup conference, and there was a coaches event. We were at this rooftop bar and just, randomly met. And I must have said some question like, oh, tell me about what you do and what you're most excited about. And Bill, you started explaining to me all about what Clifton Strengths was and how you used it with teams and you helped people work from their strengths. And I just started laughing because I was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I do this too. And
We have the same job.
right. And we were
Mhm.
laughing in the pre-show because I'm like, I don't know why I would be at a Gallup rooftop event and not assume everyone's a coach. Something happened, something cute. I don't know. I think it's some of those there, Gallup invites a lot of potential and new clients as well.
Mhm.
So maybe I was under that construct. That's the only defense I
I
might
must have looked
possibly have.
corporate.
So
I think probably.
I would
Or
say
your communication was just so curious that you asked a
Yeah.
question that he was like, "Oh, she must not know. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
she
just
must
gonna
not
tell
know.
her."
So I'm going to tell her. No, it was totally good because you explained it really well. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to explain it that way too next time. That was good.
I'm going to drop that number. I like that. So I love that we met that way, that you brought it up and reminded me of it. I laugh. I laugh at how sometimes I can't read a room. So I do suffer. Yeah.
Well, I have
All-
no context too, so it's okay. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Which this is funny because as you two were just talking, I looked up my list because I was like, "Where is my context?" You all, this makes sense. My context is number 11, which explains why every time I talk to anyone, I'm like, "Tell me your story. I need to know everything about you up until the day you were born till why you are sitting here in front of me today." Oh yeah, she's strong in the context. That makes sense. So,
Yes.
just been doing the strengths coaching thing for over a decade and still here going, "Oh,
Yes.
that's why I do that."
Oh, that makes sense
That
now.
makes
So good.
sense.
So
Jennifer,
Yeah.
you're
good.
such a good coach. You got that out of me and you didn't even know you were going to do it.
I mean, Jennifer's now my coach. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, don't tell
yeah.
Charlotte.
I can't. No, Charlotte will be my coach forever. She is just too amazing at what she does. But Jennifer, your coaching acumen and way you build around communication and having that with the people you're coaching with, that connectedness, which is very high for me too. My connectedness is way up there. It's 8 for me, but it definitely bonds me and understanding it. But my individualization is super high. Yours is number 8. So we share some of those in that coaching component. But that's just me shooting from the hip because I know how I do it. Can you talk about your coaching practice? Like, how do you do it? What strengths are you bringing? And maybe how you're dealing with some of the differences of the people that you coach.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So, I have strategic number 9, and I think it definitely plays in. It probably combines with maximizer for me. Is I'm looking at a person. Usually, when someone starts a coaching engagement with me, most often it's career related because I am a career coach, and so I integrate Clifton Strengths and ICF coaching. I'm a PCC certified ICF coach and career development. So, which I did at the university. And then now I do privately. So I think I'm always looking for where does someone need to go? Like where are you now and where do you need to go? So I think I'm pretty strategic about that coaching. And but I also am very encouraging, I think. I kind of put people at ease when they call me for discovery call and I say, hey, look, nobody calls me on their best day. So what's going on with you? I mean, if you get to the point where you're paying a stranger money to get out of your job, like things are not going well, right? So, I want to make people at ease and just normalize that. I mean, the research shows that more than 50% of people are looking for work, even before, some of the current events that are happening and even more changes now. So I think I really like to build structure for people. And it's funny because I'm low discipline, low consistency, but I know how much structure helps people. And so what I really like to do is take something huge and break it down into smaller pieces. So I'll often tell people it's going to be like putting a puzzle together, but we're going to have to get all the puzzle pieces one by one by one. So what are your strengths? What are your skills? What's your education? What are your values? What's working? What's not working? Are you using your strengths? Are you not using your strengths? And we're still on day 1 or 2, right? There's so much to know about that. And then what are your interests? Because you can use your strengths in multiple settings, different industries, different kinds of settings. So sometimes when people are desperate for change, they're looking at job boards and they're like, do I want to be the head of marketing at this bank in Denver? And their answer might be no, but why no? Denver's not a good location for you, or banking isn't your thing, or head of marketing isn't your skill set, or you're not sure you can get it. So my favorite thing to do is take really confusing, stressful things like job search or career change and try to make them simpler so that people can just do one piece at a time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I love everything you're saying, and my head is gonna fall off today because I'm such a bobblehead as coming from career coaching. And if people are wondering if Jennifer and I knew each other before we were both running our own businesses, the answer is yes. I will just
You're going to tell that story now,
put this
Sarah.
story out there. When I worked for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the College of Business, I applied for a job at Fort Collins State where Jennifer was, and she was the one who picked me up from the airport because I had to fly out there for an in-person interview, and we just got along so great. And I ended up not taking that job, and I was so sad because I didn't want to make Jennifer mad. Like, I knew, I was like confident, okay, this isn't the right fit or time for me to go. But I always was like, this woman was so amazing and I like her so much and I want to work with her.
You were
And
so sad when you didn't take
harmony
the job.
inside of me was like, is she going to be mad at me? And I actually ran into her last year at Charlotte's event. And I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but this is what I remember. Also, are you mad at me that I didn't take that job?
Not mad, not bad. No, it actually worked out well. Someone else came who was amazing. But one of the parts of the discussion I remember about that was that you and I have a lot of strengths in common. And so one of the discussion points about hiring you was like, oh, she'll be able to do the same things that Jennifer does. And so we were like looking at workload and like, do we have enough of those kind of things,
Right.
teaching and presenting and things like that. So anyway, I'm glad that we reconnected, and it's no surprise that we do similar work because we have very similar strengths.
Absolutely.
I find it fascinating, Sarah, that we've invited on a guest that we both have to check in and maybe apologize to.
Right? We would
What
like the
did we-
world to now know.
What did we do back then? Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't, so that makes the coaching community feel much smaller than it is. What are we at? 1,800, somewhere in there, 1,800
1,000.
worldwide? Or, sorry, 18,000, right? 18,000 coaches. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I love that. I love that story about, oh, are you mad at me still? Sarah, that's so,
I know my
Not mad at you.
harmony.
it's very Sarah-esque.
But-
Jennifer, I would ask you about, you brought up your deliberative and consistency being low. So how do you organize and where do you go there? And I bring this up frequently for groups that I'm coaching with, and that is I have nothing in my top 10 that is organizational, right? And I have so many that want to fall off of that. I have Activator that wants to jump all over it. I have Woo, and I want to, I have some harmony, but connectedness. So don't worry about it. It'll get there. We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. But I have found in my world that I put it all on a calendar. I put it all, for me, I don't do it naturally and reoccurringly, but I have to put it somewhere where I will see it, because if I don't, it won't happen. So for me, I am more forced to do it. And even though it doesn't feel great to me to do it, I know I'm not missing anything. So then my responsibility and my restorative, right, and all of that ability to step in and know I'm in the harmony where I'm not letting people down, that all works for me. So how would you say that's fair on your side? Does that feel fair for how you do this?
I'm pretty tied to my calendar too. Absolutely. I will say that one of the things that helps me a lot is for especially my career clients, I use a program called Coach Accountable. There's a lot of programs out there like that. That's just the one that I use. But it's a portal where I can keep notes, we can keep files. And I think communication, number one, and hire relator, like it allows me to stay in touch with my clients. And I mean, every time they post something, like they post their old resume or they do a journal, it comes to my email. And I think that would probably drive some people crazy because it's really high volume communication. But with communication, number one, connectedness, number two, maximizer, woo, relator, like being in touch, like how are my folks doing? What are they doing? And so even when I see them like checking items off and it comes in, so-and-so did the worksheet, I'm like, oh, good. And so it actually it is really helpful for me because I know, and then because I have high communication, I'll often jump in and go, hey, the worksheet looks great. Keep up the good work. Let me know if you need anything. And that is just the way that I kind of manage and keep in touch with clients. So I'm very high touch and very relational. So I'll even warn people on a discovery call, like, this is who I am. This is how I work. If you just want to like mail stuff and get a resume in the mail, like I am not your person because I want to know your hopes and dreams and help you maximize to get the perfect job. I mean, it's far down the line before we're working on a resume. I mean, I want to know who you are and where you are and what's broken and what we need to fix and what your goals are and your big dream that you think you can't get, but you probably could. Like, I want to know all of that before we start putting materials together. So I think using that portal is really key for me, and then absolutely tied to my calendar. I just get up every morning and do exactly what it tells me. And if it wasn't there, I wouldn't have a clue.
Wow. You can just hear your communication woo and positivity just shine through when you talk, right? The joyful energy and the way you talk about your clients and helping them, I can feel it. And I know as a career coach, as you said before, when clients are calling you, it is not their best day.
Right.
And that work of job searching or career changing,
Yeah.
it's a lot of emotional labor.
Yeah.
There's a lot to sift through. So I have to imagine your clients feel so lucky to have your sort of like positive energy, that bright, shining sunshine to say, hey, we can do this. Like, let's figure it out. I have a process. Here it is step by step. And I am going to be with you every step of the way, even when you do the small thing, to have the recognition to say, yes, you did the worksheet. Love this. Can't wait to talk to you next week. I just have to think that that is so helpful for the clients that you have.
I hope so. I absolutely hope so. I think you got to read the room though, because things are hard. And so, I can't just gloss over. That's the blind spot of positivity, right? It'll be
Right.
great. It'll be fine. Don't worry. And, when things in the world are changing quickly, some people are excited about it and some people are really scared. And so just to be a coach is to hold the space for whatever
Right.
someone is feeling without judging or assuming. You just have to be really curious about how something is, even as something as simple as somebody says, um, hey, I've decided I'm going to leave my job and look for something that fits me better. Even if I responded like, how exciting, that's to put a
Mm,
judgment on that. I don't
right.
know that that's exciting for them. A much better thing would be, how are you feeling about that? And
Right.
sometimes people go, it's really exciting. And sometimes people go, I'm really scared. So that's part of what we have to do as coaches is hold that space. And I mean, I don't know if somebody is excited about something that's happening in the world or not. Sometimes change is really encouraging for someone. They have
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for change. They get a severance and they've been meaning to change for a while. And sometimes it's just absolutely devastating. So I was a career coach in 2008, 9, 10 is when I got into the work at
Mm-hmm.
the university, and the economy was down at that time. There was a lot of transition. I've been a career coach ever since, working in university settings with both undergrad and graduate students. I worked with and still work with MBAs in some settings. So for lots and lots of years, we got through 2020, lots of
Mm-hmm.
change. Now 2025, lots of change coming down the pipeline for a lot of folks. So I just always say, we're going to pay attention to what's happening and we're going to look for opportunities, because there are
Yeah.
always opportunities, but we got to hold that space.
Tell me, how do you manage the positivity to hold space, right? Because it could be easy to be the cheerleader always. So how have you learned to dial back that? Maybe what else do you lean on in those moments to not put your own judgment or thoughts on what people and clients are telling you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have high individualization. So just really understanding where someone's coming from. I think, I love that in teams. It's just like my
Mm-hmm.
big goal is, okay, do you see where this person is coming from? Okay, do you see where this person is coming from? And just really listening to see what's their perspective, and to, as much as possible, just call that out. I hear this perspective? Is that
Mm-hmm.
serving you? Is it not serving you? It doesn't matter if it serves me, and it doesn't matter if I agree with it. It's not my life or my decision. So I think coaching is a really unique, it's a really unique job in that our goal is to support someone else on their journey, and it's not our journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
You can
good.
hear that individualization in there. And I think strategic. It's very strategic thinking that you're coming at it with, of knowing there could be a lot of different ways this person is feeling about this. And I'm going to meet them where they're at with that individualization.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I'm curious on your end about your ideation, right? We're going to the bottom of your top
Yeah.
10 in that
Yeah.
I work with ideation people quite a bit. It's 29 for me. So I love talking to high ideation people. I want to bounce it. We've had a couple of guests on that worked together and contacted me separately, and they were like, we ideate too much together as two people. we spin up and then we get off track and then we do other things, and then the time goes by and then we didn't get anything done. The agenda's still there. We haven't touched, because we talked about what can happen in 2 months, 2 years, 5 years, and we're so hyped. I spun off that, his ideation, he spun off mine. Then we got lost. And some of the ideation people I deal with, it's always great, that popcorn brain, always having that idea train. How do you wrangle that? Is that would you say that that's how your ideation shows up, or is there some other component to it? And how do you deal with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. In career coaching, I think I will often tell clients, I am never out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think, career coaching is very interesting. I'm ICF certified coach, and coaching is mostly about staying in the questions and observing, and it's very client led. But career coaching has an element of consulting to it,
Absolutely.
where, somebody says like, well, how do I put that in LinkedIn? I'm not going to ask a coaching question like, well, how do you feel about putting it?
What do you think you would do?
Maybe you could say like, well, what do you want to accomplish with LinkedIn? And I can make it, more coaching. But sometimes I'm like, you need a 3-line headline and we need to put lines in between and you need to capture some keywords. It is important for me to offer some consulting. So I think I definitely am aware that some people need an ideation partner. They've got a whole bunch of ideas and I can partner with them in that. But then I need to bring in my strategic and my maximizer to build that's how I build structure. It's not discipline for me, which is really low because the structure is not always the same. But it's like I look for the patterns with my strategic and then maximize what they are saying. So I think I can partner with someone who's high in ideation by saying, okay, we've got all these ideas out there now. What 3 categories? Or let's code them red, yellow, blue. What are the ones we want to stop working on? What are the ones we're interested in yellow? But what are the ones we definitely want to investigate green? So I'll kind of have to step back and put strategy on it. But then some people that are low in ideation are often the people that really feel stuck. I see one option. And that one option is not working out. And so, I'll ask permission, but hey, I can imagine like 8 different ways this could go. Are you open to some suggestions? And so I'll think of things that people won't think of, like getting to a professional conference or reading a book on an industry or listening to a podcast on a field that they're curious about, or some websites that I might know that have ideas, or even I've been playing with ChatGPT and career questions and when you're stuck, like, how do you do that? So I've even gotten online with people and go, let me do it with you. How do we ask a good question? How do we ask a better question? How do we ask a more nuanced question just to get people unstuck? And so I can partner my ideation with people who don't have that high, and then they can run with it. And I will, in my program, I'll put in action items. We'll agree to, okay, which things are you going to research? What are you not going to research? What's the next step? What's for later? And so it only works if we also have some structure to it. Otherwise, we can run away on ideas all day. And people are like, okay, I have ideas, but I still don't know what to do tomorrow. So I have to make sure I bring it back to, and what's your next step?
Yeah, super effective way to talk about it. Thank you very much, Jennifer, because as you were saying it, I was sitting there thinking, I get hooked and I get stuck on one way, right? I want I see it. That's the way I'm going to go. And suddenly when that is not the way for me anymore, I panic or I don't see the other ways to do it. I'm going to bang my head against that one way to do it. But I'm also a high activator. So if I surround myself with an ideation person, right, I don't see it. I get the ideas from someone, and then the idea person helps me form and go, well, this is maybe where we should go. I'm an activator. I'm like, oh, hey, that's what I'm going to do,
That's what
right?
I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's how I'll step into that.
I think it's really important to be aware of the strengths of the person that I'm coaching. So every single person that I work with takes Clifton strengths. If they're like, I don't want to do that, I'm like, you should call a different coach, because this is what I do.
Yeah.
And I talk about it a lot, and it's on my website, and I'm on podcasts, and I write on LinkedIn. So pretty much anyone who calls me knows. In fact, people on discovery calls will be like, I wanted to meet you and I brought my top 5.
Yes.
So, they know we're going to talk about it. I think what matters about that is the way someone will move forward in transition also depends on their strengths. So I'll give an example of my daughter, who's an engineering student, has high focus. That's not very high for me. But one of the things, and she is strategic too, so she can see multiple options, but then she goes to focus and she's got achiever. Achiever's my 34. Focus is also pretty low. So the thing that I've learned with her is we can connect on strategic. Hey, let's look at some plans. Let's look at some options. But while I would then ideate for, another hour, she's like, all right, Mom, what are we going to do? Let's make a decision and let's move forward. So actually traveling with her is really fun because we'll strategize and then she will make it happen and cook it and stay focused, where I'm like, but there might be 14 ways to maximize it and lots of different strategies. She'll pull me down. So I think it's, if I'm coaching her on something or working with her on something, I have to know that she's going to leverage focus, and that helps me. But for me to help her, I need to go with it.
Yeah. Powerful partnership. I love hearing how you use it personally with your daughter and also professionally with your clients. I also keep hearing this connectedness. I think this connectedness and this ideation as a career coach has to be a superpower that you get a pull on, because as I'm sure you agree with, when I'm career coaching someone, I'm like, we have to explore self and then we'll explore options. And most people in this world don't know or forget about or don't think it's important to know yourself. They just want to go to the options. Is that what you see as well?
Yeah. And I got excited when you said that, because I was thinking about a client that I worked with recently who was going for a job that was pretty data-driven and pretty technology-driven, and had interviewed multiple times for different roles and just wasn't landing it. And when I met the person, high relationship building. In fact, 5 out of 5 top 5 strengths in relationship building. And I looked at the resume and said, where are you talking about your collaboration? Where are you talking about mentoring, supervising? And the answer really was, well, I mean, those aren't really the sellable qualities, right? And so I'm imagining this person who's high relationship in interviews trying to talk about how data-driven they are and how, technically sound they are, which is absolutely true. This person absolutely is. But actually the selling point was the way they worked with humans and the way they brought people together. And so in our work together, actually the person said to me, I don't think there are jobs just in relationship building. And I kind of laughed, because my entire job is talking to people about their dreams and goals and hopes and helping them happen. That's my whole job. It's my whole job. And I've been doing this work for, big number of years, 25, 30 years now. And it's all relationship. So yes, there are jobs like that. So as we kind of reconstructed stories to share in interviews, I said, how do you connect with people? How do you develop people? How do you maximize people? How do you individualize your talking with them? So we ask on resumes and interviews, what did you achieve? Well, achiever's my 34. It's just, I mean, I have 2 college degrees. I'm a functional human. It's fine, right? But achieving things, checking things off is not my motivation. Right. So instead of asking me, what did I achieve? Why don't you ask me, how did you connect? How did you communicate? How did you relate? So that's what I got this person doing. And the next interview went great.
Yes. Oh, I love you pointing that out, Jennifer. It reminds me of the story when I was at the College of Business. We had this thing called Take a Parent to Lunch when the incoming freshmen would come to campus and they would come with their parents. And so they would split off the students and the parents. And so I always volunteered for this because I'm a connector. You know, this is the thing I'm going to put my hand up for. So I go get my free lunch with the parents. And I remember sitting down with these parents and they were saying, you know, our son wants to be an actuarial science major, which is very data technical job. And they're like, but we just think that's the wrong field. He's really good at it, but he's so personable and he's so good with people. And I'm like, y'all, if he wants to and has the ability to be an actuary and he's good with people, he's going to be the boss of everybody. Like that's the thing is if you have a skill set, but you can also do people,
Mm-hmm.
like this is magical because every job requires people. And that's like,
Absolutely.
that's sort of a unicorn, right? Like, yeah, we can find our engineers and our actuaries, and they're great. We need them. And they have a very strong academic and technical data driven lens. Listen, I can't even talk about it in the right way because I'm so far not that person, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh, but if they can also do the people part, wow.
Yeah.
The success is literally limitless because we
Yeah.
have to have people who can do both, and they usually rise to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a common challenge with career because we look at someone's strengths and then we assume, right? My daughter, the engineering student, leads with influencing. That is not typical for aerospace engineers.
Right.
But because she leads with influencing, she's, officer in a couple clubs. She's going to be mad at me when she hears this. It's like talking about me on the podcast, but I'm so proud of her. But she naturally leads projects and she will always do that. And she interviews really well. And she's got a great internship already as a sophomore because she interviews well. So, your strengths talk about the way you will do work and they'll talk about what you'll enjoy in work.
Right.
So she loves leading the projects. But it doesn't limit you. Sometimes people think, well, you have to be
Right.
high analytical to be an engineer, and that's just not necessarily true.
Yeah, and I would say too that leads right back to the previous discussion we had. I create lists because it isn't my strength. I need to step into that. And what resonated with me, Jennifer, was you were talking about I have 6 of the 9 relationship themes in my top 10. So I tend to be a relationship person more than just about any other technical. I have activator too, which tends to jump right into things, but I tend to build the relationship side. And I've mentioned this before that I had a 30-year career at the state in IT, which you would think not a big relationship stronghold, but the reason I survived in it and did reasonably well as a manager wasn't because of the technical abilities. It was because of the relationship side that I brought to it. Yeah.
And I love pointing out your strengths are sort of that motivation and where you enjoy. But this is why, as career coaches, and you said this at the top, we also ask, what are your skills? What are your interests? What are your values? Because it takes more than just strengths to understand where you should go as a career. And again, I'm getting on my career soapbox here. So welcome to the show, everyone.
She's doing it.
Yes.
She's going.
I talk about the career development process. Again, it starts with that exploring self. It goes to exploring careers, right? Then it's like developing your materials and then it's doing the job. But this is cyclical. This is not linear. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw me make a circle here. I did not go from point A to point B because you can be performing the job and things change, right? If you're 24, single, working a job, that's great. But then all of a sudden you're 30 and you're married and you've got 3 kids and your values might change. Your interests might change. So therefore that job you're performing might not hit the way it used to. So you have to go back to exploring self.
Yes.
So even though we say you're born with innate strengths, right? The strengths assessment says these are the strengths that you were born with. And for the most part, they stay the same. But your interests, your skills, and your values, they change and evolve, which is why we as career coaches hit people at any stage. You could be 19, you could be 65, and you can still be on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I know people ask me, who do you typically work with? And I work with a person who wants to use their strengths in their career. It's more defined by that than it is by a demographic, because I worked with young students for a lot of years I worked with MBAs for a lot of years. I've worked with people in the midst of divorce or widowhood or empty nesting, transition. You can change jobs under any circumstance. And
Right.
sometimes it's world events or layoffs that you didn't choose. Things, I always put up with people kind of a step-by-step overview. And the first thing I say is, number one, decide that you need a change or accept that you need a change. Because I think a lot of times when people first will come to me, they'll say, well, I got laid off and it wasn't fair. And this thing happened and I'm really upset about it. And like, there's no way we are going into strengths or options or resumes or anything like that if they're still dealing with, I haven't really accepted that this has to change.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always relate to that because I think I fought my own career change for a lot of years. So
Yeah.
I totally relate to that.
And I think that's like our strengths can impact how we deal with that. Right? Because I even think, as I have friends who go through these career changes but really they haven't changed careers. They just go through it in their head, but they're more deliberative and strategic. So they will go through it for years. Right. And as a friend, I walk with them through it and it will be, okay, I think I'm going to make it change. No, I'm better. No, I think I am. You're right. And it takes a long time. Whereas personally, and other folks I know who are more activator based, like if I decide I'm making a change, like I'm making a change or I'm at least doing something to see if the change is going to happen. I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to submit the application. I'm going. But that's just how my strengths are different. Deliberative is my 34. So I'm not sitting here flip-flopping on what I'm going to do, but I understand that others will because they're just going to approach that in a different way.
For sure.
Yeah,
And
so good.
If we're coaching someone who has high deliberative, then we have to understand what the needs of that are because they're anticipating risk. And so I'll just say, let's just get it out on the table. What are all the risks? What are all the questions? What are all the worries? And then let's figure out where can we go for answers. So just, again, I always think like take it apart and put it back together. It's like you have this Lego creation and we take all the pieces apart and then we can actually build something new with the same Legos, but we might leave some out, or we might go buy a couple new ones,
And we're going to say, and we're going to have it done by Monday.
Right. Right.
We're gonna take it all apart. We're gonna put it all together, and we're gonna put a deadline on it. So we're working towards something here, my friend.
Oh,
exactly.
You just spoke to Jennifer's maximizer in such a big
Totally.
way. Oh, it's going off, right?
I'm like, you got it.
I work with a couple of, or at least I follow a couple of other coaches that are big in more of the personal, but also business world. They're less strengths based, actually. Although quite often, funny, I listen to them and they're quoting Gallup information, but I do still listen and follow, and some of it I really appreciate. And it resonates with me. The change component that you're bringing up is so common from a coaching point of view. We all need to look at, we all need to think about changing at least some aspect, right? If we aren't in a change mode, we can take information, but then it just bounces off of us or sits on our vest. Are you guys, both of you are aware of Mel Robbins now?
Oh, yeah.
She's having a moment.
Yeah. Love her.
And Mel's
I've been on Mel Robbins before you all were on Mel Robbins.
Great. So, but Mel's big revelation is all around, let them, which is, let them be mad or let them understand or feel the way they do. Just let it happen. But if you dive into Mel's bigger components of that, what's really the nirvana for her is the let me.
Right.
And that's the change part, right? That's where the change issue is. So how can I be better in that situation? What would I do? What would I have changed to make this be better in the end? So I hear that common thread between you, the coaches that I follow, but also how often we're coaching. And I know you do this, Sarah, too. How often we're asking our clients to evaluate and make a change, at least step up to the change plate so that you can absorb and take on more.
Yeah. There's a couple things that are coming up for me that I often share with clients. One is, I think I grew up with the serenity prayer on my wall from my parents, and it was, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think I really think about those and talk about those principles with clients a lot. what are the things that you can change and what are the things that you can't change. And I think there's another concept that plays into that helps. There's a book I really like called Designing Your Life. And there's a concept in there called the gravity problem. And, it doesn't matter if I don't like gravity. I am sitting in a chair. And if I stand up and sit down, like gravity is going to pull me down. And I can jump, but gravity is going to bring me down.
Right.
And I think sometimes we're fighting gravity problems longer than we need to. For me, it was working in higher ed. Love higher ed. Still love higher ed. Still consult to higher ed. Always will love it. So believe in education. It's one of my core values. Education changes lives. I'll say it to the end of my days. But as a career coach in higher education and an advisor before that, doing that kind of frontline work for 25 years, you don't have high salaries, right? To get a higher salary in higher education, you have to become the director, you have to become the vice chancellor. That was faculty and staff, and I taught and I coordinated lots of things. So I got a lot of leadership experience, but I was always frontline. I think I turned down opportunities to apply for management 4 or 5 times. And they kept asking me, do you want to apply? I said, no, because I don't want to spend my day in strategic planning meetings. I want to be frontline with the people. Now, could I have used my relationship building as a director? Absolutely. But I wanted to be frontline. And that's just a concept of career. I'll ask people too, like, do you want to be at the policy table or do you want to be frontline with the people? So for me in higher ed, being frontline kept me in a student services role that was, a middle salary that just was never really going to change much. And it took me years of questioning that and wishing and hoping that maybe it could change. And that I finally came to accept that is a gravity problem.
Yeah.
But when I realized that I could just do the same work that I loved and do it either privately and in organizations, and getting ICF certified as a coach allowed me to do executive coaching, allowed me to operate in some different places. I could work with teams and organizations and still do one-on-one career coaching. I do the same work today, but it's in a different setting. And so the pay structure of that is different as a coach consultant. So that was the gravity problem I had to accept before I was willing to make a change. And I cried and cried and cried leaving higher ed. As a relator, I just wanted to be with my friends. And I loved the connectedness of it. I loved everything about it, except I have 2 kids in college.
Yeah.
I was a single parent for 10 years. I was not going to fund my kids' college on a higher ed salary. The irony is not lost on me, but
Right?
it was a gravity.
Oh, Jennifer, I love that you're saying this, because what I hear there too is the value discrepancy, right? You got to a point where you had to value money more. Right? For a long time, we can do what we love and say, it's fine. I don't have to make the more money, right? I don't want to do the job that makes me make more money because it's not going to be doing the job, because you're in tune with your skill set and your strengths. But then that money thing, you're like, I really need more money. And right here, I'm capped out. So then it's like forces that change. And I just think it's such a powerful story and testament, because we see people all the time who do the opposite of what you do, in fact, right? They get offered the higher role and they just think, ooh, more money, more power, yes. And then they get in, and what happens? They're miserable, or it's not actually in a line with their strengths or their skills. And so then they feel like they're failing, right? Because they were a good individual contributor maybe, and they couldn't do the management as effectively, or whatever that higher level is. And I think I would love if organizations were structured different, first of all, so we could pay people more money for doing jobs that they're great at, whether or not that meant that they were higher in the hierarchy, and or just teach people that it's not always about more money, more power, because what are you sacrificing to get there sometimes?
We have to get clear on what the challenge is that you're solving. And I talk to people a lot about pivots in their career. Are you doing a pivot or are you doing a jump? Because if you're trying to imagine, William Bridges' old books, like written in the 70s, has this theory of change, and he describes like being on one side of a shore and there's a rushing river in the middle, and you're trying to see the other shore. If the river is really big, you might not see the other shore. But if you're trying to get to a whole new place, then you start building a bridge without checking it out first, you don't even know if you're building a bridge to the right place.
Oh, yeah.
So I think if you're going to do a big jump, like across a river kind of big jump, you need to build a bridge step by step, but you have to know it's where you want to go. The other thing you can possibly do is just do a pivot. And so a pivot, like that was what I did. I do the same work. I just do it in a different setting.
Yeah.
But if I stayed in the same setting, I could do a different role in the same setting. And that also would have accomplished the goal of higher salary. So it really depends. Even if my kids had gone to the university I worked for, that would have also accomplished the goal. It's just that university didn't actually have the major my son was even interested in. And so interesting dilemma, right? There's multiple ways my strategic can see multiple ways goal of like getting kids through college. But obviously, you've got to get clear on that before you make choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very much so. Wow. It's like a master class today, Jennifer. Thank you for that. So, Sarah, you asked the question around, hey, if we're not living in the right strengths, how might we do some other stuff? I would say, how often do we possibly get in our own way, right? How does our strength become a dumpster fire? And we asked that question here, Jennifer. And for our regular listeners, our arsonists, we like to cover it because we all suffer from it. So how might somebody as knowledgeable as you and so good at understanding what the top strengths are, how might your strengths become a dumpster fire for you sometime?
I think that Woo Relator combination is just challenging. I want to meet everybody, and I'll be back in university days, I'd be like the first one at the career fair, the last to leave, and I wanted to greet everybody and welcome everybody, and positivity woo. But then I wanted to stay in touch with everyone, and so luckily, I think LinkedIn is really magical because it's like all the people I've met over the years are somehow in my network in LinkedIn, and it's not even all. And that makes me sad. If someone didn't connect with me on LinkedIn, I might lose them forever, But
Wait, this is your sign to go connect with Jennifer on LinkedIn right now.
I was going to ask, are we in LinkedIn together, Jennifer? I got to check now.
I will definitely double check.
I am double checking because now I'm questioning after we met the first. Now I'm like, I messed up. So, all right.
But I think it's a pull, Woo wants to meet everyone and Relator wants to stay in touch. And I early on in my journey of becoming self-employed, another coach told me, as a Relator, you need to keep your circle small. As Woo, you want to be at everything. But as a Relator, you need to keep your circle small. And so I think that's always, I don't know if I'd call it a dumpster fire, but like I found myself last year in 6 online groups because Woo Relator, positivity, connectedness. I work at home alone in my office on Zoom, right? So I'm in like book group and the connect to the other coaches group and the tools for coaches and I'm part of Awaken Coach Institute group and I want to be in, all discussion groups and I want to go to Gallup things. And I was finding myself just pulled in too many directions because I wanted to be part of everything. So I have to remember, like, I always need to make sure I have a main coach that I go back to, and I have my trusted connections and my 4 people on Voxer that I trade, messages with. So it's an interesting pull.
Yes,
it really is. And I just messaged you on LinkedIn, said we are.
Perfect.
Yes. Sorry.
You are quite the multitasker.
I cheated. I jumped right in. I was like, I got to know. Because I thought it'd be even funnier to go, hey, you now have an invite you haven't responded to. But it's not true. We already are. And I just said we are and LOL on it. So.
Yes.
Well, and I love how you point out the Woo Relator as the dumpster fire. Our friend over here, Mr. Bill Dippel, you have that combo as well.
Does it get you in trouble, Bill? Do you find that you have that same pull?
I've said this before, and it generally is very true. My Woo, in particular, we know it stands for winning others over. For me, it most often means wife objects often because I'm talking and building relationships and doing things, and she's high strategic, so she's trying to go and get things and press forward. So that absolutely happens. And then the relator side came up recently as well in another podcast we did where I tend to build a deep relationship, but I want to fight, particularly when I was younger, to hold on to it.
Yeah.
And I'll fight with Woo and I'll fight with Relator to build that and keep structuring it, making sure we're doing that. And so often I thought, we should be doing things this way. And I'm trying to build that relator woo component when in reality, I shouldn't. I should let them, right? I should be a little more Mel Robbins in that. And that's that was tough. It definitely got my way more early on before I was very strengths aware. And to tell you it's gone away would be disingenuous. I definitely still feel at times that I need to check it, right? I'm a human being. I still have those moments where my woo is getting in my way, and I literally have a UPS delivery guy who will wave at me every day he drives by, because when he makes a delivery here, I invite him in the house to grab a fizzy water, right? And by the way, I don't even know if he probably likes fizzy water, and he's probably got more to do than come into my house to get a fizzy water. But hey, I want to woo it up with the UPS guy. And yeah, so
I feel you, Bill. I feel it.
It absolutely, when you mention those two and jumping in, thank you for pointing that out, Sarah. It is very relevant for me, because I step on other people and myself in a way that you don't think a woo relator would. Yeah. And it pops up.
Well, I'll tell you what, as someone who has woo and not relator, I kind of have strengths envy of the two of you, because obviously I'm a human in the world, so I want to have deep relationships, but my woo, I collect friends easily, and I have so many friends. I consider everyone my friend. I can meet you one time, and the next time I see you, I give you a hug. It actually has happened before. Well, I'll be in a coffee shop having coffee with someone. Someone will come in, they'll say, Sarah, I'll say, oh my God, hi. We'll hug and we'll talk about something. They walk away, I sit down, and the person will say, who was that? And I'll be like, I have no idea.
Nothing.
I'll be like, well, I know, my husband works with this person, I have the chain of command of how I've met them. I remember things about them, but I can't remember their name.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I learned years ago, I have to ask if they're there.
Oh, yes.
I'll just be like, I am so sorry. Please don't take offense to this. How do we know each other?
You're a better human than me.
I'll do it, because then it drives me nuts all day.
Or I say, remind me your name. Remind me, I remember that we met at the university. Remind me what that was,
Oh, that's good.
That kind of works for me, because I worked at universities, big universities. I taught the freshman seminar for 4 years. I had 500 students a semester.
Yeah.
Plus my graduate students, 200 students every year, plus the one-on-one coaching, 300 students a year. So just at the university, how many people is that?
Right.
People are like, how'd you get such a big LinkedIn network? I'm like, well, when you work with that many people,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it can be hard for me to hold on to friendships that I want to keep. I have to be so intentional to not let those people go, because it's so easy. This sounds terrible, but to replace people. If you're in front of me, I'm 100% when you're in front of me, I'm with you. Yeah. But I know that all the people who are not in front of me probably feel like I'm giving them the cold shoulder, because I'm only with who I'm in front of. And so
I would say that is that relator component that you're, that is
exactly.
We compared it early on woo, but from a relator side, my friends in Los Angeles, my friends here in Reno, they are like my core, and I probably have 20 other people that think they're in the core, but they aren't. They're pretty sure that they're right there. They're not even close, but I have that, but I might start letting those in. It just takes time, and I want to build that.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, do you feel the same way from a relator point on your end?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a lot about trust. It took me a really long time to choose a financial planner, for example. That is a really trusted connection. And I did not get the advice I needed early, because the people I tried, insurance agent or whatever, different ones. I have a good insurance agent now, so if she hears this, don't worry, I'm not talking about you, but old, right? But it matters to have trust. Now I here's all my money. Please don't screw it up. I mean, that takes a lot of trust. And, it's so funny, because when I first started talking to my current financial planner, I was like, I just have questions. And he was like, don't worry, I'm happy to answer your questions. And I tell him, I think I was the longest sales cycle. I think he was answering random questions for me for 5 years before he became my financial planner. And also he was my former MBA student. And I know his wife. Like, you better be like in good, right? Because that is a very trusted. So something like that takes me a really, really long time to build that level of trust. And yet my Woo can make connections with people really easily. And of course, when people are hiring me, I'm asking them to trust me. So I just don't take it lightly. If someone does invest in that kind of relationship, I'm like, I get it, because it takes me a long time.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll also tell you that from a relator point of view, sometimes when I meet someone that I think, oh, that's it, we're gonna be great friends, I'm too hard, too fast, right? I've literally had somebody, I meet with a group of guys regularly, and we are very honest about our lives. And one of them, I had said, well, I was a little surprised you and I didn't go do more things together when we started. And he went, well, you came on way too hard. You gave me this thing, and you loaned me this, and you were calling to go do a couple. And he's absolutely right. I felt that relator bond so fast, because I thought, man, we really connect. And so like you said, sometimes relator takes that long arc. Sometimes if you think it should be all there, it's too short of an arc. It's painfully short.
And that's probably the Woo, like,
it is
transitioning into like
it is totally
relator right away. I just think the power is in the knowing this about ourselves. Like, how amazing is it to know that about the people that you live with? I gave the strengths assessment to my teenagers during COVID. I was like, I just have, we're in the house together 24/7. I just need to understand y'all just a little bit better. And it has been so powerful. I mean, my son leads with adaptability, and I'm high strategic and he's low strategic. So I'm like, what's your plan? What's your plan? What's your plan? He's like, I don't know. I'm going to see how it goes. He's currently studying Europe, and he accidentally chose the year-long program because he checked the wrong box, and he just decided to go with it.
I love that.
So I love that. And so he's traveling the world, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm like, what are you going to do this weekend? He's like, I don't know. I'm going to check flights and see what's cheap. I mean, it's amazing. And I would never, ever, ever live that way. Right. And I so admire it about him. And my partner's high consistency, and, I'm high ideation and maximizer. So I want to make things, new things, new ideas all the time. And he's like, actually, I really like it when things kind of stay the same. But how valuable to know, right?
And then I think I always tell people it brings us deeper empathy, whether you have empathy or not, like just empathy in the world, because then you understand where someone's coming from. You don't have to take it personally. Like, well, why don't you want to do it my way? Or do you think my way is a bad way? Or why would you just do that? It's like, oh, I understand that this is how you were made. You were given this sort of God-given talent to be this way. And I'm going to see that as a good thing, even if it's not what I would do, because this is what makes you great.
Well, and that's the magic of it. I have one of my business partners, my operations manager, who her strengths are totally different than mine. And we have to talk about that. I literally got our bring need reports out because if we don't, the only thing we have in common is connectedness. And if we don't stay connected, we will fall apart because she's everything I'm not, and I need her so desperately. But if we don't stay in communication, we miss each other. I send her things that she doesn't need. I miss things that I should tell her. She thinks I'm not giving enough information. She's high input, right? So it's even, and she gave me, she's like, it's okay. You can talk about that. Because I'm like, I'm talking about someone and I'm always careful about that. But she's like, no, tell our story because it's the work we do, right? Yeah. And so when we realized, oh, we're not communicating as well as we could, we pulled out our bring need reports. We looked at our top 10 strengths and said, connectedness. That's what we have. That is what we share. And so now we make sure that we absolutely meet regularly. And if we're not going to meet, we give each other messages and we text each other. We stay connected. That's our secret. And it's all we've got because nothing else is the same.
Yeah.
But when you know that about yourself, then you can actually thrive.
Yeah, that's where the aiming the strengths comes in, right?
Yeah.
Name, claim, aim, and then we're aiming them.
I have one more story about that, if you would indulge me. I learned, I was working with a marketing consultant, who was very, very structured. And I said, I told you I have low discipline, low consistency, low achiever.
Mm-hmm.
She's very, very structured. And it's so amazing the way she runs her business. It's very, very effective and she's super talented. But she said, when you have a request, you need to put it in the system. So you log in and you do these are the specific requests. Well, I don't really operate that way because I'm like, I have this idea. I have this thought. I have this, I kind of want it to feel like purple. I don't know, put it on line 3, do this thing, right? And so it was really interesting. And she was giving me action items because she said, in order to do your website, I need you to do these things. So we were kind of missing each other. She wanted me to be more structured. And then she kept sending me tasks, but she would say, log into my system and I've left 14 tasks for you.
Oh, man.
You know what? It is never a priority for me. It is just never going to be a priority. And I was not doing what she needed me to do. She goes, I'm trying to help you, right? Yeah, I know. And you're awesome. But so I said, could you try this thing? I'm high communication, high relationship. Can you just email me one question? Because I'm so good at responding fast on email. Just email me one. And she's like, I want to know what color you want on this banner on page 3. And I said, green. She was like, okay, that was point number 1. So she sent me number 2 and she goes, I want to know which wording. Do you like this wording or this wording? Which wording do you prefer? And I answered her in 2 minutes. And she was like, wait, why did that work? I said, we turned achiever into communication.
Mm-hmm.
I have communication number 1. I have achiever number 34. So thank you for turning it into communication.
Wow.
That actually works for me.
Great story. That's really that's a really good example from all the coaches listening on how to think about, we're not going to delve into the bottom. We're going to only use the ones that hit us at the natural and reoccurring level, and let's step into it. That's a great example, one I have not heard before. So
I love it, and I resonate with it.
Yeah, me too. So let's go to a fun question. You ready?
Yep.
All right. You have just won the lottery, Jennifer.
Oh,
but you can only spend the money using your top 10 strengths. What's your first move? Where do you start?
Oh, well, all right. Communication. So I'm telling everybody, and this is going to be bad because then people are going to be like, oh, you have money? Can I have some?
Oh, money, honey.
I'm going to be in trouble right off the bat. If I win the lottery, there's no chance I'm staying silent about that. I'm going to be so excited. So that's going to get me in trouble. My connectedness, I think I will probably think like, who else needs it? Where do we need to share it? But then my mind goes to travel. So I think, gosh, if I had like a lot of money, I could go to a lot of places and visit a lot of people. And working in higher education all these years, I have connections all over the world. Literally, like name a country, I probably have former students there or colleagues there. I did my coaching training in Spain, so I have a lot of colleagues in Europe and a good friend in South Africa. Like, oh my gosh. So I think I would want to go visit everybody. So my connectedness wants to reconnect. My relator wants to maybe bring a couple close friends. My woo is super excited to like go meet everybody. And
I love it. I love that connectedness.
The perfect answer.
I'm traveling.
I'm
traveling.
Answer.
Yeah, I'm going to connect with everyone that I think I haven't connected with in a while.
Totally.
Okay, and before we wrap up, Jennifer, you're writing a book, and I have to give you some airspace. Can you tell our audience about your book?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I did partner with Joe Self a couple of years ago, and we did one book. So this is the book Joe and I did. It's Practical Strengths Career Success. So Joe is the author of this whole series, and I was the expert contributor. So shout out for that.
And I own that book. It's great. I highly recommend it. It's so
Great
easy to
source.
use. That's what I love about it. It is just gets straight to the point. It's very user friendly. A great book. Excellent
Yay,
job.
I'm glad. We in that book we talk about where do you thrive with your strengths from a career standpoint, what kind of setting to look for, what to communicate, what do you communicate about your strengths in a job search, how to search, which is this thing that I'm so excited about talking about, and then how do you succeed on the job. So what I'm doing with my book is kind of the how-to of that, right?
Yeah.
This book is a reference, but the how-to and then telling the stories. So telling the stories about people who first didn't know their strengths, were in some kind of career dilemma, then learning their strengths either help them make a decision or help them communicate or actually get the job, and then how they landed in a better place. So it's really individual stories with what's the lesson that someone else can learn from it. So it's been so fun to interview people, to reconnect with some of my old clients and students and say, hey, I remember when you stepped into your strategic strength. Can you just remind me of the details so that we can capture it for others? So it's a fun project, tentatively called Creating Your Strengths-Based Career, Navigating Your Journey to an Ideal Job. I don't think there's one ideal job. I think we find lots of ideal jobs in our lives, but it is your career journey. So we'll see. Work from Your Strengths is another good title. I think I maybe should consider. So I haven't decided. We'll take a poll.
Your ideation has more than one
I know,
possible
look.
title? I'm shocked.
Keep for 2 hours about what the title should be, but
Ideation
for
just
when we
going
publish,
off.
I'll have to get definite.
Do we have a TBD published date?
So you're asking somebody with discipline, focus, consistency, achiever low. I would love to get it out this year, but I'm gathering so many stories and having so much fun reconnecting with people. We shall see.
We shall see. So stay tuned. Follow Jennifer on LinkedIn.
Person, but hopefully in 2025. My belief is my only high executing talent, and I really believe in getting it out into the world. So I hope I can do it on the sooner side.
Nice. Well, we're going to have all of your information on our podcast website, but you want to give a quick statement about how the best way is to find you through other people? Is it LinkedIn, Facebook, your website? Just give a shout out to how people can find you if they're looking for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is communicatingstrengths.com. And that is a great way. There's a discovery call on there for anybody who's interested in career coaching, executive coaching, or team training. Or there's also a link on there if you want me to interview you for the book. So if you're a past client or someone who has a really good, I used my strengths in my career story, I would love to connect with you on that. So that's on the website. There's some information on there. And then LinkedIn is my social media of choice. And so you can find me in LinkedIn under Jennifer Doyle Vancil. I use the long version of my name because both Jennifer Doyle and Jennifer Vancil are more common names. So I use a longer version of my name, and I think I'm the only one with that unique version of my name. So,
well, as I started typing it in during the show, it's the first one that popped up, along with the accreditations. So I believe you are correct. You are the only one. So I love it. So, well, great. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us today. We've taken a big chunk of your day here, got a little long with you, and I want to thank you for donating and giving us the time, but also being so honest and heartfelt in this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun to reconnect with you all, just individually as people that I know, and look forward to seeing you at the conference in Denver, I hope, coming up.
Yes.
We will be there.
We plan
on being
in there.
Colorado, so we'll be welcoming you all to my home state.
Yeah.
I got so excited. I moved my mic.
Wow. Look at that. She knocked it across the room. That was good.
I was just going to say, it makes sense that we were a little long today with a communication number one guest.
Yeah.
You know?
Stunned. I was stunned. Yeah.
We looked at your thing and we were like, this is going to be an easy podcast, She's going to bring it. She's going to bring it. She did.
Cut things out later. You can cut things out later.
No, we will not be cutting anything out. We don't take away gold, okay?
As the originator, I have the timer here. I'm like, wow, is this a long episode? People are going to be like, wow, was this that there's so much goodness.
Part two.
No, break it. No chance.
I love it.
You're getting it all. So excellent. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for contributing and for what you do. It's just really, really good to hear how you did it. So many great moments of how to not worry about what you don't do so well and then turn it into something you do so well and how you got to where you are. So thank you for that.
And you're ending the episode saying doo-doo. And with that, goodbye, friends.
No. So we will talk to our arsonists on the next episode. Oh, thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dippel, founder of Bill Dippel Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com. Follow her on Instagram at Sarah Coach Collins or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDippel.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dippel Coach, or email him at bill@BillDippel.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.